Have you ever woken up from a dream with the overwhelming sense that someone you lost was standing beside you so close you could almost reach out and touch them, only to feel that memory dissolve like smoke in the morning light? For a fleeting instant, it feels real. Their voice, their smile, their presence, and then it's gone. The grief returns, heavier than before, leaving you with questions that never seem to find answers. But what if those moments weren't random? What if dreams are not illusions at all, but the soul's secret language, an invisible bridge where those who have crossed over can still speak to us? Edgar Cayce believed that within these fragile fragments of dream, our loved ones leave us messages of comfort, guidance, and love that death itself cannot silence. Tonight, we open that door together. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you into this journey with me. If you feel a resonance in what you've heard so far, consider subscribing so you won't miss the next step in exploring Cayce's wisdom. And please share your own dream stories in the comments. I read them all. And sometimes, your story is the bridge someone else needs to heal. Now, let's step into the language of dreams. Dreams are strange. They come wrapped in fragments, an old house you once lived in, a song you haven't heard in years, the fleeting shadow of someone you loved. I remember a night when I dreamed of my grandmother. She stood across a room, lips moving quickly, as though she had something urgent to tell me, yet every word dissolved into static. I woke up with my heart racing, haunted by the sense that a message had slipped right through my fingers. We've all had moments like this, waking with the memory of a dream so vivid it feels like it must mean something, and yet the meaning hides just out of reach. Modern science has tried to explain these mysteries in ways that sound logical, even comforting. In the 1970s, two researchers, Hobson and Macaulay, proposed the activation synthesis theory. They believed dreams are nothing more than random electrical impulses firing across the brain as it tries to make sense of chaos during sleep. According to them, what feels profound to us is really just the brain stitching together meaningless images. Others, like Ernest Hartman and Calvin Hall, suggested the continuity hypothesis that dreams are not random at all, but mirrors of our waking lives. What you fear, love, or obsess over during the day shows up in symbolic form at night. Then there are cognitive theories of dreaming, which treat dreams as a kind of psychological workshop, a rehearsal space where the mind tests solutions to problems and works through emotions too heavy to handle in daylight. Each of these perspectives offers a piece of the puzzle, but none of them fully explains the emotional weight we feel when a dream involves someone we've lost. If it's all random firing, why does the sound of that familiar voice stay with us for days? If dreams are only a mirror of daily life? How do we explain the sudden reappearance of a childhood friend, long gone, carrying a song only she used to sing? And if dreams are just emotional rehearsal, why do they sometimes leave us with a peace that feels like a blessing, or a grief that cuts deeper than memory? This is where Edgar Cayce offers something radically different. He insisted that dreams are not just echoes of the brain, they are doorways. He described them as bridges between the conscious and the infinite, where the soul is free to step outside the boundaries of time and space. In this view, what science calls random or symbolic may in fact be deliberate messages carried across the threshold of sleep from those who wish to comfort us, guide us, or remind us that love never ends. When I recall the dream of my grandmother, I wonder maybe the words I couldn't hear weren't meant for my ears, but for my heart. Maybe the urgency wasn't a jumble after all, but a vibration of love breaking through the veil. And that is what Cayce challenges us to consider, that every dream, even the ones we forget, may contain whispers from beyond. And if we learn to listen differently, we may hear the voices of those we thought we lost forever. Thank you for staying with me this far. It means a lot that you've chosen to pause your day and share these moments of reflection with me. Now, let's step deeper into the heart of Edgar Cayce's forgotten wisdom, where dreams are not merely fleeting shadows, but sacred messages written in the language of the soul. Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, believed that dreams were far more than psychological noise. He described them as bridges between worlds, a place where the spirit is free to move beyond time and matter. In his readings, he explained that the souls of loved ones who have passed on can use dreams as a channel, wrapping their presence inside symbols and impressions. What may appear to us as a simple object, a familiar place, or a repeated phrase could, in truth, be the way a departed loved one chooses to whisper across the veil. One of Cayce's most powerful cases involved a woman grieving the loss of her son. She came to him after repeatedly dreaming of standing by a river where her child called to her from the opposite shore. To her, it was both comforting and heartbreaking, and she couldn't understand why she felt such urgency every time she awoke. Cayce interpreted the river not as a random image, but as the symbol of transition between the physical and the spiritual realms. He told her that her son was reaching out, assuring her of his continued life. And the river was the message he had crossed safely, but was still calling her to find peace. For the mother, this was no small comfort. It became the beginning of her healing. This way of seeing dreams changes everything. Rather than dismissing them as fragments of memory or coincidence, Cayce invites us to look at them as letters delivered by night letters folded in symbols, waiting to be opened not with logic, but with the heart. A dream of a song may not simply be about music, but about the person who once sang it to you with love. A dream of walking into an old home may not just be nostalgia, but a reminder that someone you lost is still with you in the familiar spaces of your soul. Philosophically, Cayce's view is profound. Our loved ones are not gone, only transformed. They have changed their mode of communication, speaking in symbols rather than words, appearing in impressions rather than physical form. This redefines death itself. It is no longer an ending but a shift in language, a translation of presence from one dimension to another. When we accept this, grief softens. We realize we are not abandoned. The love that bound us does not unravel at death. It simply learns a new way to reach us. So when you awaken from a dream heavy with emotion, pause before you dismiss it. Ask yourself what symbol was given, what feeling lingered, what voice stirred beneath the silence. For Cayce, the message was clear. Our dreams are the sacred meeting ground where the living and the departed continue their conversation, one that is never truly broken, only reshaped by the mystery of life beyond. And maybe right now you're wondering if dreams can hold such important messages. Why do we so often forget them the moment we open our eyes? It can feel frustrating, almost cruel, to wake up with the memory of someone you love so close and then lose it within seconds. Science tells us the waking mind quickly filters what it deems non-essential, pushing dream fragments aside as if they don't matter. Our brains are wired to prioritize survival, not symbolism, so the details fade as daylight takes over. But Cayce offered a different perspective. He taught that even when the storyline disappears, the imprint of the dream remains the lingering sadness, the sudden comfort, the unexplainable peace. These emotions, he said, are not accidents. They are the residue of soul communication. The message is not always in the image you saw, but in the feeling you carry with you after. Think about it. Words can be forgotten, but the way someone made you feel endures. In the same way, a dream might leave you with tears you can't explain, or a calm you didn't have before. And that is the true language of the soul. From Cayce's view, forgetting the surface details doesn't mean the connection was lost. It means the message was delivered at a deeper level, beyond the reach of the logical mind. So, instead of mourning what slips away, we are invited to honor what remains: the feeling, the presence, the invisible embrace that lingers long after the dream dissolves. When it comes to recognizing dream messages, Cayce offered 3 keys that can completely change the way you see what happens in your sleep. The first is emotional residue. If you wake with a weight on your chest, a joy that feels unearned, or a calm you cannot explain, don't ignore it. That lingering emotion is the imprint of the soul's message. It may be the only part of the dream you remember, but it carries more truth than the images themselves. The second key is symbolic anchors. These are details that stand out like signposts. A song that once belonged to a childhood friend, a house you haven't entered in decades, or a light that feels more alive than physical. To dismiss them as random is to miss the handwriting of the spirit. Symbols are the alphabet of the soul, and when they appear, they are not accidents, but carefully chosen carriers of meaning. The third key is the recurring dream. When the same figure, place, or feeling returns again and again, it is not coincidence, it is insistence. Repetition is the way the soul makes sure you pay attention, like a loved one knocking on the door until you finally open. These recurring dreams are reminders that the message is too important to be lost. I once heard a story of a man who kept dreaming of walking through a golden field beside his father, who had passed years earlier. The dream always ended the same way, with his father placing a hand on his shoulder and saying nothing. The man woke each time with tears, unsure what it meant, until he realized the message was not in the words, but in the presence. His father's silence was not emptiness, it was assurance. It said, "You are not alone." This is what Cayce meant when he said dreams speak in poetry, not prose. They ask you to feel, not to argue. They move beneath logic, into the quiet places where the heart listens more than the mind. So, when you dream tonight, don't chase every detail or pressure yourself to decode every symbol. Instead, notice the feeling that lingers, the one image that won't let you go, the patterns that return as if guided by invisible hands. These are not random. They are the threads of connection that weave across the boundary of life and death. And if this resonates with you, I'd love for you to share your own dream experiences in the comments below. Your story might be the comfort another grieving heart needs to hear. And if you'd like to keep exploring Cayce's timeless wisdom, consider subscribing. It's one way we continue this journey together, keeping alive the truth that love never ends. And maybe you're thinking this all sounds moving, but how does it stand against what science tells us? That's a fair question, and one Cayce himself would welcome, because truth doesn't fear examination. Modern research into dreaming has uncovered some remarkable insights. We now know that REM sleep is not just a random firing of neurons, but a vital process where the brain sorts emotions, heals stress, and integrates memory. Therapists today even use dream work as a form of grief counseling, helping people process loss and trauma through the symbolic language of their subconscious. In this sense, science recognizes that dreams carry an emotional weight far beyond chance, and that they often become a mirror reflecting the soul's deepest needs. Where Cayce expands this view is in suggesting that the mirror reflects not only our inner state, but also the presence of others who remain connected to us. Science points to the mechanics how dreams function as emotional regulators, how they replay fragments of experience, while Cayce insists that within those mechanics is a doorway, one that allows us to encounter loved ones who exist beyond the physical. It's not an argument of either or, but of both and. The biology of sleep explains the stage. The spirituality of Cayce explains the actors who step onto it. Together they form a fuller picture of why dreams feel so profound, so real, and sometimes so impossible to dismiss. For those navigating grief, this bridge between science and soul matters. It tells us that what you feel in a dream is not delusion, but a real psychological event, acknowledged by modern therapy. And at the same time, it leaves room for a deeper truth that love, memory, and presence continue to flow through the hidden channels of the night. When you wake with tears, when you wake with peace, you are experiencing something both measurable and mysterious. And that mystery, Cayce reminds us, is not a threat to reason, but an invitation to expand our definition of reality. So how do we actually begin to recognize and hold on to these messages before they slip away? Cayce believed it wasn't about waiting for some rare mystical moment. It was about preparing yourself with intention. The first step is simple. Keep a notebook or journal beside your bed. The very moment you wake, before your mind races to the day's responsibilities, write down anything you remember. It doesn't matter if it's a single image, a fragment of conversation, or just the way you felt. Over time, these fragments weave together into patterns, and those patterns often reveal the deeper thread of the message. The second step is creating space before sleep. Instead of collapsing into bed with your mind full of worries, try a short meditation or prayer. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and if there's someone you long to hear from, simply ask. Say their name, invite their presence, and open your heart to the possibility of connection. Cayce once said, "Prayer before sleep is an invitation for the soul to speak." When you approach rest this way, dreams are no longer random. They become conversations you've made room for. The third step is reflection. In the quiet of the morning or evening, look back at what you've recorded and ask not only, "What did I see?" but also, "What did I feel?" The images may confuse you, but the feelings will guide you. Sometimes the dream isn't about the literal symbol at all, but about the comfort, the reassurance, or even the warning it carried. When you read between the lines with your heart, you begin to notice that the dreams are speaking in a consistent, loving tone that is uniquely familiar. These practices are not about chasing ghosts. They are about honoring the possibility that love continues to reach for us in ways the logical mind cannot fully explain. And when you choose to engage, you may discover that your loved ones are closer than you think, waiting in the stillness of the night to whisper what words cannot hold. At this point, we begin to see that dream messages are not only about comfort or closure, they are reminders of something far greater, that love itself transcends time. Cayce taught that love is not a fleeting emotion tied to the body, but a living energy that continues long after physical life has ended. When we dream of those we've lost, we are not replaying memories. We are stepping into a living current of connection that still flows between us. In this way, every dream becomes a ritual of remembrance, a quiet ceremony where the soul affirms what the heart has always known, that bonds of love are unbreakable. Think of it this way: the dream is not a scrapbook of the past, but a visitation in the present. When you see your mother's face, hear your father's voice, or feel your child's laughter echoing through your sleep, it is not imagination, it is presence. The dream space allows us to receive what words cannot hold, and what daylight often makes us doubt. It is here that grief is softened, not by forgetting, but by realizing that nothing has been lost except form. What remains is essence, and essence does not die. This is the healing philosophy Cayce left us with, that the deepest messages of dreams are not puzzles to be solved, but invitations to trust in love's permanence. When we accept this, we shift from despair to reverence, from longing to gratitude. Dreams stop being fragile illusions and become sacred touchpoints, a way of continuing a conversation that never truly ended. And in those moments, we realize that the ones we miss are not gone. They are still walking with us, just in a different light. As we come to the close of this journey, take a moment to reflect on where we've traveled together. We began with the ache of loss, that hollow silence left behind when someone we love is no longer beside us. We explored the fragile and fleeting images of dreams, often dismissed as random. But through Cayce's wisdom, we discovered they are not empty illusions. They are living messages, a bridge where love continues to reach across the divide. Along the way, we learned that even the dreams we forget leave behind a residue of presence, that symbols and feelings are not accidents, but soul language, and that grief can be softened when we choose to see dreams as conversations rather than memories. The gift here is profound dreams remind us that death is not the end, but a change in the conversation. Our loved ones have not disappeared. They have only shifted how they speak to us. In the stillness of sleep, they remind us that love survives, that connection endures, that nothing essential is ever truly lost. If this touched your heart, I invite you to share your own dream stories in the comments. I read every one. And your story might be the light someone else needs tonight. And if you wish to keep walking deeper into Cayce's timeless insights, consider subscribing so we can continue to explore these truths together. Above all, carry this with you when you close your eyes tonight. Listen closely. Someone you love may be waiting to whisper, "I never left."